A very good evening to all the participants. My name is Dr. Vignesh. I'm part of the National Digital Library of India team. We are one of the co-organizers and technical support partner for this 25th PN Panikkar National Reading or Digital Reading Month celebrations, along with Niti Aayog, Ministry of Education, and the CBSE Central Board of Secondary Education. As many of you know, we have been organizing a series of webinars during this month-long celebrations, apart from the competitions that we have been organizing for various stakeholders, including the school children, college-going students, teachers and faculty members, and librarians. And this is the 15th in the series of webinars that we have been organizing. And today's session is on the topic of using technologies to achieve inclusive education. And we have one of the very seasoned uh, civil servant, Mr. Alphonse Kannanthanam, who joined as a Indian Administrative Service Officer way back in 1979. And he is one of the best performing civil servants, and he got at least 3 times Best District Collectors Award. And not only that, he also joined the politics, and he received the Best Member of Legislative Assembly Award as well. And he was the former Union Minister of State for the Culture and Tourism Ministry, and he is with us today for delivering his address. Now I formally request Balagopal sir to welcome our resource person and all the participants. Over to Balagopal sir.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Vignesh. Today we have a very distinguished faculty member, that chief guest, Sri Alphonse Kannanthanam. As Dr. Vignesh said correctly, he was one of the distinguished IAS officer of Kerala, and when he was the collector of Kottayam, he made that Kottayam town as the first totally literate town of the country, and he achieved within some 80 days. That is his achievement. He is a committed IAS officer who went to do some good social work, not only social development for the welfare of the society. And based on his performance, he has been awarded 3 times Best Collector Award. Then he joined, then he resigned the Indian Administrative Service and joined politics, and he was MLA. And then he later joined the Rajya Sabha, and he became the Minister of State for IT and tourism. And there also he made a remarkable mark. And wherever he goes, he will have he will make his position very impressive, because everybody will appreciate his initiatives. And his the main feature I have noticed, that's the basic nature of the IAS officer, because whenever he calls anybody calls from any corner from the country, irrespective of his identity, he will picks up the phone. It's a very rare behavior, because the IAS officers and the top-ranking ministers will never pick the phone. They will have a lot of excuses and they will never pick the phone. But he likes to interact with everybody. That is his commitment to society. And today he speaks on reading, because he was very much associated with Mr. P.N. Panikkar, and he is a fan of reading and digital reading. And during the Prime Minister's visit to Kerala, he was in the front row, and he got the appreciation from the Prime Minister himself, that he is the first man to make Kottayam town as the first literate, fully literate town of the 100% literate town of the town in the country. And he gets warmth from everybody because of his commitment with the society and the people. And he was an IT minister also. There also he had made so many inventions, so many innovative programs were introduced in tourism also. And in a short time he was in the culture minister also. And we are fortunate to have him as the speaker of today. There was some confusion regarding the time, etc., and the title of the sir, kindly excuse us for the lapses. And I'm inviting Sri Alphonse Kannanthanam ji to this August webinar. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Balagopal, Mr. Vignesh, and distinguished participants, thank you, Mr. Balagopal, for inviting me to this webinar on technology and inclusive education. I'm very, very happy to be participating in this. In fact, Mr. Balgopal's father, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can
Yeah.
hear you,
In
sir.
fact, Mr. Balgopal's father, Mr. P.N. Panikkar, he is the one who really made, started the literacy movement in Kerala, India. He's the one who also started the library movement. In every village, he said we should have a library and people should go and read. And that is how we learn. I mean, so he's a pioneer in a whole lot of things in the literacy movement, in the library movement. And he was a very close personal friend of mine. When I was a district collector, I used to meet him very often to get his advice on how do we proceed on making Kottayam the first 100% literate town. So he was a wonderful man, a remarkable person. I'm extremely happy that his son, Mr. Balgopal, is taking the movement forward, and he's taking it much, much forward. I was present when the Honorable Prime Minister declared the movement Read More Books campaign in Cochin in St. Teresa's College, which was organized by Mr. Balgopal, the P.N. Panikkar Foundation. To the topic, I think number one, education has to be all-inclusive, which basically means that two things. One, it has to reach everybody because it's a fundamental right. I think it's a fundamental right to be educated. I think the right to life, the right to living, right to getting a job, a profession, everything depends on the ability to get educated. If you don't have education, you are left behind. You will be in perpetual poverty, and you will add to the numbers of poor people in this country. And therefore, the right to have education is so fundamental. Secondly, also, just a degree alone does not give you education. That is the second aspect of our debate today. Whole lot of people get a whole lot of degrees, including PhDs, and which is generally cut and paste, and they don't really have actual education. I mean, they just get degrees. See, a whole lot of graduates in India or even postgraduate, many of them are not qualified. It is the ability to understand things. It's the ability to judge things. It's the ability to take decisions. It's the ability to have those decisions implemented. So all this is part of education. So if you take all this into consideration, it's just not degrees. It means actual education which will enlighten your intelligence towards action, towards making the country better, toward creating a better, toward really is actual education. So both these aspects are now, especially during the pandemic, where there are no classes going on, schools are closed, colleges are closed, the reach out to people. I think it's fantastic to have digital technology. You can reach out to the maximum number of people. It's so easy to reach anywhere, any part of the country, any corner in any village. It's all very, 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 very interesting. But the problem is, number one, the kind of quality, the Wi-Fi, the quality of Wi-Fi which you require to have actually an online class, you require very good Wi-Fi. Now, this Wi-Fi is not available in a lot of villages, though the government of India has done a fantastic job in laying down optic fiber to most of the villages in the country. We still have reached only 1/3 of the total number of villages. And therefore, I really think that even though the achievement of the government of India is fantastic, it's a phenomenal achievement reaching optic cable to so many panchayats. Still, there are a whole lot of areas in which quality Wi-Fi is not available. And unless you have quality Wi-Fi, it is not possible to have really online education effectively. You will get cut off, you will not get quality reception. So that's number one. Number two, of course, is much bigger problem. When people eat, and thank you to 80 million, 80 crore people of this country, free ration is being provided. So at least people are not really dying of hunger. But so there is so much of poverty during the pandemic. And therefore, a whole lot of students do not have a smartphone, which is absolutely essential for having online education. Most families don't have a smartphone. So what happens? Whole lot of children who are absolutely on the periphery to begin with, they are actually not even part of the our national ethos and online classes. They get left out much more. They are just not able to access education at all, which means it's terrible. That means millions of children are going to be left behind, who are not able to participate in the online classes, who will just leave. And once they leave, they will not come back. They just will not come back to education. And therefore, I really think it's extremely sad. So a whole lot of organizations have come forward to donate mobile phones, smartphones. NGOs have come forward, schools have come forward, but still a whole lot of children in the villages do not have smartphones. And so that has left behind very, very large number of people, students who are going to drop out of school, because once they drop out, once they don't get promoted, once they're not able to attend these classes, they will just drop out, and that is the end of it. They'll go back to doing what they have been doing before, babysitting, rearing goats and, taking them to the pasture and things like that. And that is very, very sad. So technology is very good. It's technology is something which is neutral in terms of its reach, in the sense that it can reach anybody, provided the equipment is there, provided the quality is there, provided the quality of teaching is there. So it's a fantastic phenomenon of this century, especially of this decade, that technology has improved so much. Now we are able to reach out to people, but the big sad part is that very large number of people get left out. Now, even to those who have the technology, even those who can come online, for children, it is very boring to be sitting for 4 or 5 hours attending online classes. As it is, children are bored in the classrooms, even in the physical classrooms today, because most of our classrooms are not interesting. Teachers who are not really trained properly to teach children are taking a lot of classes. And even teachers who are supposed to be qualified in government schools, most of them really are not good teachers. They are very, very poor teachers. They can hardly hold the attention of children, even when physical classes are going on. Imagine when digital online classes are going on, children are absolutely bored. Unless the quality of these teachers improve dramatically, online classes also will be a tragedy. So this again is happening in a whole lot of places, because teachers are not capable, they are not trained properly, they don't have the will to learn. So a whole lot of problems are there. In fact, I was member of the national, the new Education Policy Commission. I was member of that before I became a minister. So when we were in the introductory sessions which I attended, I was very insistent that all these rote learning which the children go through today is just not sufficient. What is happening today? Every child wants to get a rank, wants to score very high scores. And what they do is the teacher comes to the classroom, the teacher dictates notes, and students very religiously take it down, and they try to study it by heart. And then they go to tuition teachers who teach them to copy down a comma, or leaving out a comma or a full stop onto the answer sheet. I call it the vomiting process. In fact, this is the vomiting process. What you have really mugged up, rote learning, you are vomiting it out into the answer sheets. And those who are able to really mug properly, study by heart without understanding at all, they get the top ranks. In fact, I met a parent the other day, sometime back. I mean, she was going to the education office, and she said she's going to ask for a recalculation or revaluation of the answer sheet, because got only 499 out of 500. Now, my question is, how does a child get 100% in English, history, political science? I think it's ridiculous. The kind of teaching methods we have in schools today, the kind of evaluation we have, which focuses only on rote learning, I think is horrible. I think this is exactly what the country is going through now. And this is exactly what the new education policy is trying to change. I hope all these things happen quickly enough so that you see our children begin to think. They are able to be innovative. They are able to be constructive. They are able to invent things not only in the laboratory but also out in the world. So this is actually learning. When a child knows how to ask questions and how to find the truth, not for the teacher, child, for the child himself. Panikkar, he said, it's not enough to get degrees. It's not enough to pass schools. For you to have really to be a human being, you need to read books, because books tell you what really the world is, what really experience is, how to be a good human being, how to be a compassionate human being, how to be creative. All these things you get by reading, and therefore all this technology, all this is fine, but ultimately this world needs good people. This world needs creative people. And for that creativity to flourish with all the technology that we still have, I think we need to read. Reading can be many ways. You can read electronically. Today, most of the books are available electronically. But if you ask me, really, no. I like to hold a book in my hands. In fact, I'm just reading Harari's Sapiens, and I have also two other books with me. Harari's again, Homo Deus. In fact, that is what I'm reading now. Earlier, I read Homo Sapiens. Now, I also have his third book, Ideas for the 21st Century. I mean, the kind of knowledge that comes through young Harari. He's only 43, but I consider him to be the biggest intellectual of the world. I mean, the kind of thing which from his books or from any book. I was reading the autobiography of Obama, the former president of the United States. The kind of knowledge which we get, how the world works, how we need to be compassionate, how whatever we have is not really our possession. We are merely trustees of whatever we have. We need to share all these with the world. All this comes through a certain habit of reading books. What the world has shared, what the world is gone through, the sufferings, the happiness, all that the world has gone through is beautifully described in books. So while technology is important, yes, the reading habit can books to be in my hands when I read, because I like to feel it. I mean, this is the kind of thing which Mr. P.N. Panikkar had propagated. And of course, his son Balgopal is now taking it much forward through the digital technology. How do you reach out to millions of people across the country so that we have a country which has a conscience, which will move forward. All of us together will move forward towards good things, towards happiness. So congratulations, Mr. Balgopal, and to Vinesh and other people who are organizing this. And I wish this webinar all the very best. May the best ideas come out. May we get ideas how to be better human beings, how to spread happiness. I think ultimately that's the objective of everything. Where you read books, where you listen to other people, the ultimate objective is how to create a happier world. So may books create happier world. May the digital technology take this happiness far and wide to the remotest part of the country, to the remotest parts of the universe, and may we all be happy. So thank you very much for inviting. Thank you, Mr. Balgopal. Thank you, Mr. Vinesh, and happy deliberations. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful, very short and very important points. Sir, there are few questions that first comes to my mind, and I think there are few audience have also put in some questions. Can we have few questions?
Sure.
So the first question is like you rightly pointed out, like many children, in fact, I have seen it with my own eyes. A lot of children, especially in the semi-urban or rural areas, they actually gone to goat rearing, cow rearing, like all those livelihood management. And most of them study in government schools. And I think they don't have any online classes, and their teachers don't come to the school, and they are all left alone. So you have already understood the issue correctly. So what is the solution that we can, when the schools reopen, how do we get these children back to schools? Because they have already got into some, I have also seen some children getting into some minuscule labor work, getting some 100, 200 rupees per day to support the family income. So how do we get them back to the school? That's my first question, sir.
I think the only way to do is because a lot of children would have dropped out because they don't want to stay home. Obviously, they won't be allowed to stay home. Parents would tell them, you have no classes, there is nothing online or anything like that. They don't even understand what is online. So I think the teachers must go to these children's homes, persuade the parents, persuade the children, talk to them, and get them back to the classroom as and when the classrooms open, the physical classrooms open. That is the only way. It's really see any other. Everybody must with a smartphone and all. People barely exist, and therefore, for us to say, well, great idea would be to get everybody a smartphone. It's a good idea, but it's not going to happen. And therefore, let the teachers go as soon as schools open. Go to the villages, go to the homes of these children, parents, and convince them to get back to schools. That's the only way.
Sure, sir. Sure. So the next question is, how do we reach out to the children with disabilities? Because there are a lot of people who are slow learners and who have physical disabilities in terms of vision, hearing impaired, and locomotor disability. So how do we get them back to schools, or how do we get them engaged in the online education, sir?
No, it's very difficult because really to teach a child, I know a kid with autism. In fact, I had gone for a outing to Nainital with this kid and the parent and the mother and my family, and as it is, it's so difficult for the teachers to teach these children, and now because with the online it becomes extremely difficult. So I guess this is where we need really qualified teachers who really love children, who love this kind of children, not any children, and who would understand them. And I think it takes a lot of patience. I think yes, I think you need a big heart for teachers to teach this kind of children. I mean, they are very special, and these children are so loving, so affectionate. I think that's where I think we need to put so much of focus into teaching these special children, and they're very special. But I think we need good teachers, very well trained teachers to take care of them during the online classes, and of course later when the classes start.
Sure, sir. So there is a question from one of our participants. Her name is Miss Anita. She is pointing out to a newspaper article saying that implementing the national education policy now is a challenge because many children are not able to get to education in the present day situation. So what is your opinion, sir, on this?
No, you see, our education is in a complete mess, if I might use that word. See, first of all, even those children whom we think are doing brilliant by getting fantastic score, as I talked earlier, most of them, I would say, are not using their brains at all. They are just learning by rote, vomiting it out in the answer sheet. So I do not consider the kind of education we have in this country to be anything but proper education. It doesn't let you use your creativity and your brain at all. I think we have to really get the child to discover what is the truth, as I said earlier. That means you need to have to discuss with the children. You need to have interaction with the children. It can't be a one-way traffic of the teacher coming and dictating to the children in the classroom and say, this is the truth. No, you have to really talk to the children. Let the children come and bring out what the truth is. And that is how good education happens all over the world. And that is the focus of the new education policy. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the implementation of the new education policy is going to take time. It has not happened yet. I think it's so, but we really need to do this. Put dreams as a first priority in our educational, framework. Let the children dream for themselves. Let them dream what they want to do with their lives, and that dream has to take them to wherever they want to make the world happier.
Sure, sir. So there is a question from one anonymous attendee here. She is saying rote learning happens because the board, the various boards, be it the central board or the state board or the ICSE board, they prepare the question papers in a way that the marks are given for impeccable answers. So ultimately, the educators train them like that. So how to sort this out? So he or she is saying that it's a fundamental problem. So what is your opinion and how do you?
No, what this questionnaire is asking is a very good question. That's exactly what is happening. See, there is a formula in CBSE and ICSE in all systems. This is a question that will be asked, and this is the answer. Exactly. This has to be a comma, has to be here. These has to be the exact words we stop. Can reproduce exact system of evaluation is pathetic. It's tragic on the brains of children. This has to completely change. In fact, the new education policy proposes an evaluation system which will evaluate the capacity of the child to dream for himself, for herself. I think that is the kind of system which has to come in. The faster it comes, good for India, because otherwise our country won't go anywhere. The government could be doing a fantastic job, but unless we produce children, youngsters who are capable of dreaming, who are capable of deciding what is the best thing to do and not just depend on rote learning, what the teacher has taught, we don't have a future. And therefore, I think the sooner the new education policy is implemented, the best for the country.
Sure, sir. So one last question. This question is from Mr. Sumit Kumar Mukherjee. So do you think the current situation is creating a dull mindset, especially among the young children?
Of course, it not only makes them dumb, it also makes them mentally retarded. I'm very sorry to use a very harsh word, mentally retarded. See, all these kids are bright, but the moment they start learning in school, blah, blah, black sheep, London Bridge falling, all these stupid stuff, they become mentally challenged. They don't know, they don't need to use their brains anymore. That is what we teach our children. You don't have to use your brains. You don't have to use your creativity. The teacher will tell you everything in school. Learn those poems, these equations, these lines by heart, and then do it. I think the sooner we get rid of this, the sooner we realize that this rote learning is bad, the sooner we stop this kind of an evaluation by which kids who learn by rote and reproduce are given full marks. I think the sooner we realize all this and implement all these things, I think the better for us. But let me also tell you, I'm not just blaming the schools. I blame the families to begin with. Do parents sit with their children and discuss with them every day what is happening in the world? How many parents take the initiative? You tell me, how many parents? Today, the parents find the easiest way to get rid of their children. I'm using the word get rid of their children. They buy them digital equipments. So instead of the digital equipment being a blessing, it becomes a curse. You are hooked onto the digital equipment. You play games there. You watch stupid stuff there. You don't have to use your brains. And parents don't have to really spend time to talk to the children. I think this is where the big tragedy begins. Not in the school. It begins at home. So let's start with home. Start talking to the children about the world, about their dreams, about what is happening around. I think that has to be the beginning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for these elaborate response and for sharing with your the very, very, very important points of today's topic, sir. We are all enjoying, and it's one of the best sessions we have had. And now I request Balagopalji to propose the vote of thanks. Over to Balagopal, sir.
Sir, it was a very fantastic and amazing speech. In fact, we learned a lot of things within a short time. You could express a lot of ideas. And the real problem facing the children, which are facing the children, and only through this approach to the whole, then only we can achieve this inclusive education also. And thank you for coming in spite of your heavy schedule. I know now it is time for you to go for exercise, etc. But you have completely ignored and came to this webinar and blessed us with your knowledge. Although it is a short session, it was very amazing, and thank you very much. And we are looking forward to your continued support and guidance to for this movement and to achieve this inclusive education through digital technology, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
So we once again thank you for taking out your time from the schedule and being with us for today's session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Parayu.
So participants, I just have few housekeeping announcements. One is we have, I'm just going to share the feedback form URL and this one, the registration URL for this session in the chat box. So kindly first register yourself for the session and then submit your feedback form. And also tomorrow we have a session on ecosystem restoration for green economy and environmental security. a success story of Thar Desert in Rajasthan by Dr. Afroz Ahmad. That is going to be at 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. So kindly join for that session as well. And I'm going to just put the URL for that session, and also you can all see all the upcoming webinars in this URL. And for our YouTube audience, I'm just going to share the feedback form and registration URL in the chat box.